Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes part in the Navy Day celebrations at Sindhudurg in the Indian state of Maharashtra, unveils the statue of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, calls him the father of the Indian Navy. The Indian city Chennai faces the brunt of Cyclone MJ. Heavy rain throws normal life out of gear. Schools, offices and airport is shut. India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar calls for building a strong Bharat narrative at the Knowledge India Visitors Program in New Delhi. Money pledges, they grab the spotlight at COP28 in Dubai as the UAE banks pledged $270 billion in green finance. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the Indian Navy would be aligned with Indian ethos and culture. Speaking at the Navy Day celebrations in the Indian state of Maharashtra, the Prime Minister said that the government will increase women power in the defence forces. Here's our correspondent Akshay Dongre reporting.
The naval might of Indian Navy is on display on the occasion of Indian Navy Day. It is marked every year on 4th of December to commemorate the role the Indian Navy played during the 1971 Indo-Pak War. This year's Navy Day was celebrated in Sindhudurg in Maharashtra, a crucial place in the history of Indian Navy. In 17th century, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, the king of Maratha Empire, raised a formidable modern navy, which later dominated the western seacoast and protected India from invaders. Sindhudurg was his naval headquarters. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi took part in the celebrations. He unveiled the statue of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, calling him the father of the Indian Navy.
छत्रपति वीर शिवाजी महाराज से प्रेरणा लेते हुए आज भारत गुलामी की मानसिकता को पीछे छोड़कर आगे बढ़ रहा है। मुझे खुशी है कि हमारे नेवल ऑफिसर्स जो अपलेट्स पहनते हैं, अब उसमें छत्रपति वीर शिवाजी महाराज की विरासत की झलक भी देखने को मिलने वाली है।
The Prime Minister also made big announcement that the ranks in the Indian Navy would be renamed to align with Indian culture, reflecting pride in the nation's heritage.
भारतीय नौसेना अब अपने रैंक्स का नामकरण भारतीय परंपराओं के अनुरूप करने जा रही है। हम सशस्त्र बलों में अपनी नारी शक्ति की संख्या बढ़ाने पर भी जोर दे रहे हैं। मैं नौसेना को बधाई दूंगा कि आपने नेवल शिप में देश की पहली महिला कमांडिंग अफसर की तैनाती की है।
The Chief of Naval Staff on the occasion of Navy Day also highlighted the commitment of the Indian Navy in fulfilling the aspirations of a developed India.
आज हमारा देश एक ऐसा ही दृढ़ संकल्प के साथ आगे बढ़ रहा है। 2047 तक विकसित भारत के उस संकल्प की सिद्धि में भारतीय नौसेना अपने कर्तव्य पथ पर आगे बढ़ रही है। हमारे प्रयासों के दो पहलू हैं। एक, राष्ट्र की सुरक्षा कहीं भी, कभी भी, किसी भी कीमत पर। दूसरा, राष्ट्र की आकांक्षाओं की पूर्ति।
Mev yasya balmev tasya, which means the one who controls the sea is all-powerful, and this was the theme of this year's Navy Day celebrations, which highlighted the fact that Navy remains one of the most important force in power projections worldwide. And as India grows to become a major power in the world, Navy is one of the tools in fulfillment of that dream. With camera person Naveen Amakshidongre, DD India.
Well, at a senior Navy officers conference in May 1972, that was when it was decided that Navy Day would be celebrated on the 4th of December, and Navy Week 2 is observed from the 1st to the 7th of December. Here's Mihir Makuri's report looking back at India's rich history, the naval history that is.
Every year on December 4, India observes Navy Day to honor the Indian Navy's unshakable commitment and selfless service to the nation. But first, let's take a look at the history behind Navy Day. December 4 marks the daring attack launched by the Indian Navy on Karachi Harbour during the 1971 Indo-Pak War, also known as Operation Trident. This decisive strike crippled Pakistan's naval forces and played a pivotal role in India's ultimate victory in the war. The Indian Navy Day is a special occasion that honors the brave soldiers who sacrificed their lives during Operation Trident. India has a long maritime history that dates back roughly 6,000 years. But the most significant role in strengthening India's naval might was played by the Indian ruler Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. In the late 1650s, Shivaji realized the strategic importance of the Indian coastline. Shivaji used existing technology to build big boats and ships. Shivaji successfully constructed sea forts to defend the shores and control coastlines that extended through Konkan. Shivaji also founded a fleet of over 50 ships that employed over 10,000 sailors. By the time he was crowned king in 1674, Shivaji had managed to raise a massive naval fleet. But why was Maharashtra's Sindhudurg fort chosen for this year's Navy Day celebrations? Sindhudurg fort in Arabian Sea off the western coast in Maharashtra was built between 1664 AD and 1667 AD by Shivaji. Sindhudurg fort is an imposing fortification on the Malvan coast. Sindhudurg fort was considered infallible and impregnable. Sindhudurg fort's singular entrance could only be traced by people from inner coterie of Maratha army. Sindhudurg helped Marathas establish a stronghold on coast of Konkan against Portuguese, English and Dutch. On India attaining independence, the Royal Indian Navy consisted of 32 vessels suitable only for coastal patrol, along with 11,000 officers and men. India dropped the prefix Royal in 1950 on becoming a republic. Since then, the Indian Navy has grown in strength to effectively confront the multifarious challenges of the 21st century. Mihir Makri reporting for DD India.
The Indian Council of Cultural Relations has organized a Knowledge India Visitors Program. It's brought together over 80 eminent academicians in New Delhi. It's happening from the 4th to the 6th of December. This initiative of the ICCR fosters cross-cultural dialogue. It aims to elevate the standard of higher learning in the Indian knowledge systems on a global scale.
The Knowledge India Visitor Program, organized by Indian Council for Cultural Relations, is a pioneering initiative aimed at fostering collaboration and knowledge exchange. This conference spans diverse areas including Hindi, Sanskrit, Indology, Buddhist studies, yoga, Ayurveda, alternate medicine, Indian classical dance and music.
Politically, Bharat is a statement of independence. It is a declaration that as India engages the world, it doesn't have to be done necessarily in terms set by others or in frameworks determined by others.
Knowledge India event primary objectives focus on creating a platform for collaboration and facilitating constructive dialogue, underscoring the importance of cross-cultural understanding and the exchange of educational exchanges. The distinguished delegates, including HODs from renowned universities, government officials, cultural organizations, and scholars, reflect a comprehensive approach to build a global network of expertise in the designated disciplines.
Really grateful for the ICCR for this kind invitation. This is really an honor to be here, to be one of the delegates. So this is really a great opportunity for me to be here and learn about the directions, the aims.
This event not only promotes India's rich cultural heritage but also elevates the global standing of discipline such as Indology, Sanskrit studies and Indian classical arts. By connecting scholars and universities worldwide, this program reinforces ICCR's commitment to enhancing cultural and international cooperation. Kriti Vadera for DD India.
The winter session of the Indian Parliament began on Monday. It will have 15 sittings spread over 19 days. The government had convened an all-party meeting on Saturday to seek cooperation from political parties to ensure the smooth functioning of both houses of Parliament during the session.
The winter session of the Indian Parliament began on Monday. Before the start of the session, the government met with the floor leaders of all political parties under the leadership of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. And just ahead of the winter session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the media and urged members of the Parliament to participate constructively in the debate in the Parliament.
मैं करबद्ध प्रार्थना करता रहा हूं कि सदन में सहयोग दीजिए। आज मैं राजनीतिक दृष्टिकोण से भी कहना चाहता हूं कि आपका भी भला इसमें है कि आप देश को सकारात्मकता का संदेश दें, आपकी छवि नफरत की और नकारात्मकता की बने, वो लोकतंत्र के लिए अच्छा नहीं है। लोकतंत्र में विपक्ष भी इतना ही महत्वपूर्ण है, उतना ही मूल्यवान है और उतना ही सामर्थ्यवान भी होना चाहिए।
On the first day of India's Parliament session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was applauded for party's big win in 3 state elections on Sunday. In the lower house of the Parliament, the Advocates Bill 2023 was passed. The bill was moved by Union Minister of State for Law and Justice, Arjun Ram Meghwal, for consideration and passing. Earlier in the day, Indian Minister of Education and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Dharmendra Pradhan, introduced the Central Universities Bill 2023. The bill makes way for setting up a central tribal university in India's Telangana that will increase access and quality of education in the state. In upper house of Indian Parliament, the question hour was conducted after urgent matters were raised with the permission of the chair during the zero hour. The upper house, Rajya Sabha, passed Post Office Bill 2023 to amend 125-year-old Indian Post Office Act. The bill was introduced by Indian IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, sought to modify and consolidate Indian law pertaining to post offices.
Post offices को प्राइवेटाइज करने का कोई इसमें प्रावधान नहीं है और कोई सरकार की मंशा नहीं।
Both houses of the Indian Parliament have been adjourned for the day and will reconvene on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Rahul Upadhyay's report, DD India.
And still to come here on DD India News Hour. The US funding for Ukraine is set to run out by the end of the year, the White House warns. COP28 is trying to work out the language that finds consensus among all the parties. Israeli general has said that northern Gaza operations are close to completion.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India News Hour. My name is Mark Lynn. Now, the cyclone MJ from the Bay of Bengal is bringing with it incessant rainfall to the southern Indian east coast. The coastal city of Chennai, and that's the capital of the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, has faced the brunt of it, as our report shows.
In a tumultuous turn of events, Indian city of Chennai grapples with torrential rainfall, inundating streets and prompting widespread closures. Authorities have taken decisive action, shutting schools and offices. Coastal areas face evacuation as the cyclone turned severe.
Due to this cyclone, during last 24 hours, many places recorded heavy to very heavy, and one or two places extremely heavy rainfall also occurred. Now, over the districts Chennai, Tiruvallur, Kanchipuram, Chengalpet, the heavy rainfall and strong winds are likely to continue till today night.
An orange alert reverberates along the South Indian state of Andhra Pradesh and North Tamil Nadu Puducherry coasts as cyclone MJ intensifies, poised for a noon landfall.
Severe cyclone storm group में
Cyclone MJ, in the form of Severan cyclone, in the forenoon of December 5, will hit the Andhra Pradesh coast and will make the landfall. The speed of the cyclone that time will be between 90 to 100 kilometers per hour.
तब इसका wind speed 90 to 100 kilometers per hour, gusting to 110 kilometers per hour होगा.
Flight operations suffer with flooded runways, cancellations and diversions compounding the chaos. East Coast Railway mirrors the disruption, cancelling 60 trains in preparation for MJ's impact.
As per the advice of South Central and Southern Railway, about 60 trains have been cancelled.
As the region braces for Cyclone MJ, central and state relief forces spring into action. A contingent of 21 NDRF members stands ready at Machilipatnam shore, ready to tackle any potential crisis. The gravity of the situation prompts comprehensive preparation review meetings at both state and central levels, underscoring the collaborative efforts to mitigate the cyclone's impact.
Now, COP28 President Sultan Al Jaber defended his role in hosting this year's UN Climate Summit on Monday. He said that he respected the science of climate change and called on parties to build a consensus. A report also released on Monday said that developing countries would be needing $2.4 trillion a year to make a clean energy transition. Here's a report. This placard says it all. No Planet B. Some 20,000 people protesting in the Belgian capital, asking the delegates at COP28 to act now. In Dubai on Sunday, the COP summit focused on climate change fueling more sickness and disease. The UAE and charities pledged $777 million to eradicate neglected tropical diseases that are expected to worsen with climate change.
The climate crisis is a health crisis. It's well overdue. That's 27 COPs have been and gone without a serious discussion of health.
While the threats are all clear and present danger, efforts are sluggish to meet the much-touted 2015 Paris goal of keeping temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Money pledges have been in the spotlight. On Monday, delegates turned their focus to the huge gap in the need for climate finance and what's on offer. The amount of cash needed for the energy transition, climate adaptation and disaster relief is overwhelming.
The current state of the technology for carbon capture and direct air capture is a research project. There's been no cost reduction for 50 years. And there is a pretense on the part of the fossil fuel companies that it is a readily available, economically viable technology.
The United Arab Emirates, the host of this year's conference, pledged $270 billion in green finance by 2030 through its banks, and several development banks made fresh moves to scale up their funding efforts.
I have called on parties many times to find common ground, build consensus, and come to me with language that will work with all parties.
A report released on Monday estimated that emerging markets and developing countries will need $2.4 trillion a year in investment to cap emissions and adapt to the challenges posed by climate change. Clearly, finance is the only way. There is no plan B. Mark Lin, DD India. Well, India has slashed greenhouse gas emissions by 33% from 2005 to 2019, highlighting the country's effort to promote renewable energy. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports.
India has shown remarkable progress in reducing its greenhouse gas emissions. India's emission intensity dropped by an astonishing 33% from 2005 to 2019. This achievement places India well on track to fulfill its commitment to the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, aiming to reduce emission intensity by 45% from 2005 level by 2030. Notably, the country experienced the fastest reduction in emission intensity to date, with an annual average reduction of 3% in the period of 2016-2019. This remarkable progress is largely attributed to government's initiatives towards renewable, despite fossil fuel maintaining a dominant position in the energy mix. The significant increase in forest cover has played a pivotal role in achieving this remarkable feat. As of 2019, India boasts of a substantial forest cover of 24.56%, covering 80.73 million hectares. India's GDP between 2005 to 2019 has grown with cumulative annual growth rate of about 7%, whereas the emission grew about 4%. This shows that India has successfully continued to decouple its economic growth from greenhouse gas emissions, resulting in the reduction of the emission intensity of its GDP by 33% between 2005 and 2019. India's share of non-fossil sources-based installed capacity of electricity generation in 2023 is more than 41%. India achieved its NDC target of 40% cumulative electric power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel-based energy sources in 2021, 9 years in advance of the target date of 2030. As India continues its journey towards a sustainable future, the focus on renewable energy, increased forest cover, and innovative solutions like green hydrogen mark a significant stride in mitigating climate change. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
Moving on, the Israeli military has once again issued a revised evacuation order. The focus now is on the center and the south of the Gaza Strip. The IDF is continuing its operations there. They've confirmed the deaths of 3 soldiers in fighting against Hamas. Let's look at this report.
The Israel-Hamas conflict continues as the truce fire deal expired. The casualties being witnessed from both sides. These are the visuals of family and friends of Israeli soldier Colonel Asaf Hamami. They buried his coffin on Monday in Tel Aviv after an agonizing wait, believing he was held hostage by Hamas militants since October 7. The Israeli army said Hamami, who had been missing since October 7 Hamas incursion into Israel, was killed defending kibbutz. The Israeli military said that it has entered a new phase in its war against Hamas.
We have entered a new phase in our war against Hamas. Hamas broke the humanitarian pause when it violated the hostage release agreement by refusing to release women, children, and babies as agreed. Hamas also fired rockets at Israeli homes. It should be clear to everyone by now, Hamas chooses war. Hamas chose war when it broke the hostage release agreement on December 1st.
Israeli army says that ground forces are close to achieving their mission in northern Gaza and are proceeding to operate elsewhere in the enclave.
We're pursuing Hamas wherever Hamas is hiding, in the north and in the south. Every rocket launcher, weapons depot, command and control center, senior commander, underground infrastructure, and any hideout where our hostages may be held. Our war is against Hamas, not against the people of Gaza.
As Israel continued its operation into the Gaza Strip on Monday, it advised people out of large portions of the largest southern city. Meanwhile, activists who gathered in Dubai have urged for a more lasting truce to take effect again. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
As the Russia-Ukraine war drags on, the White House Budget Director Shalanda Young has warned that the United States is running out of time and money to help Ukraine fight its war with Russia. She did so in a letter, in fact, to the Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson and other congressional leaders on Monday. President Joe Biden's administration in October had asked Congress for nearly $106 billion to fund ambitious plans for Ukraine, Israel, as well as the U.S. border security. But the Republicans control the House of Representatives with a slim majority, and funding for Ukraine has become a politically controversial subject with some conservative lawmakers. Now, the person concerned, Young, said in this letter released by the White House that cutting off funding and a flow of weapons to Ukraine would increase the likelihood of Russian victories. Well, the deputy commander of Russia's 14th Army Corps, General Vladimir Zavadsky, has been killed in Ukraine. The governor of Russia's Voronezh region said that General Zavadsky died at a combat post in the Special Operations Zone. He was the 7th Major General from Russia who has been killed, apart from 12 senior officers, since the start of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. UK's Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt on Monday shared his hope of reversing the decline in public investment. The British public sector net investment is forecast to fall steadily from 2.6% of GDP to 1.8% in 2028-29. The Resolution Foundation, that's a think tank that focuses on the living standards of low and middle income earners, they've blamed weak investment for Britain's weak productivity growth, and this is since the financial crisis of 2008. China's military said a U.S. combat ship illegally entered waters adjacent to the second Thomas Shoal, disputed South China Sea atoll. And what's happened is that the Chinese military spokesperson has also said that the U.S. deliberately disrupted the South China Sea and seriously violated China's sovereignty. On Sunday, the Philippine Coast Guard deployed 2 of its vessels in the South China Sea after monitoring an alarming increase in the number of Chinese maritime militia vessels at the reef within the country's exclusive economic zone. South Korea on Monday achieved a significant feat by launching a solid fuel rocket with a satellite over the sea near Jeju Island. This successful test, which marked the 3rd instance of the rocket's technological prowess, is supposed to be used for civilian purposes such as environmental monitoring. This accomplishment is particularly noteworthy given the escalating space competition with the neighboring North Korea. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called for efforts to tackle the country's falling birth rates, describing the challenge as everyone's housekeeping duty. At an event held for mothers in Pyongyang, Kim said that the nation would work with the mothers to prevent the birth rate from declining and focus on providing good childcare services. Spotify, the popular music streaming platform, announced a workforce reduction of 17% as part of efficiency measures and better cost management. The CEO, Daniel Ek, has promised support for affected employees, including payments based on tenure and job search assistance. An Albanian opposition member of parliament has disrupted a plenary session of the parliament on Monday, the member igniting smoke bombs and setting paper on fire, accusing the government, in fact, of trying to silence the opposition. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. We're going to be discussing the Indian Navy's growth and strength, especially in the Indian Ocean region. And global media has praised the BJP's win in the state elections. Also, Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra, the largest ever outreach initiative of the Government of India, continues. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, going back to our story on Navy Day, we are joined by Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, retired, former Chief of the Integrated Defence Staff. Admiral Sinha, on behalf of our team here, let me first wish you for Navy Day. Happy Navy Day, sir. You know, if we look at the need for the Indian Navy to be aligned with Indian culture, the Prime Minister brought that up today. Comment on that and also on the monument at Sindhu Durg.
Well, thank you, Mark, for your greetings and calling me on your program, and also to Happy Navy Day to all our listeners, viewers, and yourself, because the Navy belongs to the country and everybody deserves a greeting. Coming to the question that you asked, Mark, you know, firstly, the relevance is that the Navy Day is celebrated on 4th, because it was on the night of the 4th and 5th of December in 1971 that the naval missile boats carried out a massive attack on the Karachi harbor, the fire of which took almost 7 days to douse. That is number one. The second point was that there are a number of ships, warships and merchant ships outside Karachi harbor, you know, which sank because of the missile firing. Since then, the Navy Day is celebrated on the 4th of December. You mentioned about, you know, the Prime Minister has said that, you know, the little bit of indigenization is required, you know, in the Navy. You know, the Navy operates in a zone where there are no borders, unlike the Air Force or the Army. Moment you get out of the territorial waters at 12 miles, you meet people, or rather ships of different countries and different navies. In fact, there are more ships which are the commercial ships, which are trade ships, and there are lesser number of ships which are warships. By and large, the navies in the world, you know, they have very similar ranks because of this reason. But the Prime Minister has made a good point that gradually we should come back to our Indian culture and Indian ethos, and rename the ranks. They will start with for the troops below officers' rank first, and then probably little changes in the officers' rank. But the point is that you know, we shouldn't get too much worried, because the Coast Guard, you know, below officers' rank, they already have very nomenclatures are very, you know, Indian. For example, a petty officer or a chief petty officer is called the Adhikari and Pradhan Adhikari, and the Master Chief is called the Pramukh Pradhan Adhikari. So I'm sure that Navy people are working on this, and gradually they will find. Initially, you know, our sailors and officers may find it a little difficult, but we have bilingual, you know, process in which the bilingual, it will be mentioned on the name tallies, and therefore I think that there should not be very much problem. But as you know, teething troubles are always there. Okay. So that is number one. Coming to Sindhu Durg, you know, the Shivaji statue which has been unveiled by the Honorable Prime Minister. You know, Shivaji in 16th, 17th century, he built this fort, and it was his, you know, sort of holding ground for his army, and supported by the Navy. He had a very strong naval force. And this is from where he fought the Dutch, he fought the Portuguese, and he fought the English, and he fought very well. So he wants to go back to history and give this place the importance, the historical importance that it deserves. And therefore that statue has been built there, which has been unveiled. Mark.
Indeed. Admiral Sinha, if we look at Indianness also from the point of view, it points to Atmanirbharta and self-reliance, and we can see that the Navy has been self-reliant to a large extent. Shipbuilding, submarine capabilities, we are a builder's Navy, isn't it, and not a buyer's Navy?
No, you're right, Mark. You know, this goes back to the early 60s. What has happened is that the naval planners are, you know, the government, more than the government, the naval admirals, they always knew that the India's maritime security needs to be ensured well beyond its shore. It should not be looked at the coastal security and coastal navy. And this space lies between the Straits of Malacca and right up to the Gulf of Aden. which is roughly on a diameter of 3,000 kilometers. And they were preparing the Navy accordingly. And they realized that the government will not have so much money to provide all the assets. And therefore, they decided that we should start building our own ships. The first Nilgiri class Mark, it came in the early 60s. And thereafter, at the moment, except for one or two ships which are being built because of the previous orders, all ships are built in India. Every ship is built in India, and therefore we are really completely Atmanirbhar, including the aircraft carrier. Last year, Mark, you brought this issue on your program once.
Yes.
And, you know, there is nothing that we don't make. The submarine we have started building, we just made under license or in collaboration with the French, we made those 5 Scorpion submarines, and there is a talk of making 75 India, or maybe it is called Project 76. So that's going to happen. So the Indianness is going to be much more. You know, the nuclear submarines we built before we built the diesel submarine. So we are quite self-sufficient. We are quite Atmanirbhar on the nuclear submarine, which carries nuclear weapons. Mark.
Admiral Sinha, also the purpose of the Navy is to deter, to defeat threats or aggression. If we look at the success, I mean, the Indian Navy has been a net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. How has the Navy been operating with friendly forces in the region? You talked about as soon as we go out of our territorial waters, then, you know, we need to operate with other forces as well.
A good question, Mark. I think it's a very good question. Because if you look at this very vast area, it may never be possible for one country alone to look at the maritime security. And as I said, the 90% of ships are merchant ships, and roughly, you know, 150,000 to 160,000 ships, merchant ships transit in the Indian Ocean every year. So you can imagine that, you know, per hour, how many ships are, you know, around. And to protect it from, you know, non-traditional threats like piracy, you know, like pollution, like, what shall I say, hijacking, so many things you see this happening, you know, narcotics trade, human trafficking, all these have to be sort of, you know, protected with. And therefore, the cooperation and coordination with other friendly navies is very important, so that in some time you can operate together, and in some areas you can distribute the work so that the entire area is covered at one particular time. And therefore, in Navy, the cooperation issue, you know, becomes a very, very important thing. And we are cooperating with very large number of navies. In the Indian Ocean, there are smaller navies, but we do cooperate with them, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, you know, the Gulf navies. But out of the bigger powers, we cooperate with we have bilateral agreements with US, with the French, with the Russians, with the British, with the Germans. And whenever these ships are here, we exercise together so that we follow the same standard operating procedure, so that we increase the interoperability. Let's say my anti-submarine aircraft should be able to detect their submarines, and vice versa. Or our ship should be able to target, you know, sort of carry out a simulated attack on a target which belongs to the, you know, friendly navies. So what is happening is that you're actually going to have same standard operating procedure. So in times of crisis, we are all operating without any problem of thinking as to what language will I speak, what procedure will follow. So that is the advantage. Interoperability is the main thing.
And this interoperability, Admiral Sinha, I mean, to what extent is it helping India's economic maritime interests? Because at the end of the day, I mean, a country grows with economic strength, and a lot of trade, I mean, obviously happens through the sea routes.
Yeah, Mark, you're right, you know, because ultimately, just remember that the primary role of the Navy is to protect the sea lanes of communication, right? And therefore, as far as the talking to merchant ships is concerned, the International Maritime Organization has got some common frequencies, common communication channels where all merchant ships are supposed to be, you know, communicating with any ship, whether it is a merchant ship or a warship, they are communicating with them all the time. Secondly, let us say there is some threat. There is an emergency frequency mark on which the merchant ships can transmit, it is picked up by the satellites which cover the entire Indian Ocean region, and I dare say by and large entire Indo-Pacific, because that part is being now tied up. So once you have the satellites transmitting it down to the the maritime sort of regional coordination centers, which are also in India, it comes immediately online, and they transmit it to the ships. They know which ship is in which area. If it is our own ship, then it sends a message that, at so-and-so place, so-and-so merchant ship is in difficulty, kindly go and help. So it is quite fairly well worked up, system there. Yeah.
Admiral Sinha, final question for all the young people wanting to join the Navy, both young men and women. What would you advise them?
Well, if you want to join as an officer, after your +2, you can appear for the UPSC written examination, which is same examination for National Defence Academy or for the Naval Academy. Now, these two, the Naval Academy gives you a 4-year BTech course. It doesn't mean that you become only engineers. Now, every officer in the Navy has to have a technical graduation because things are so high-tech. Even an executive officer, a fighting officer also has to know. So that is one. Second, if you go to NDA, then you get an MSc degree there, in nautical science, and later on you can develop it. You can make it BTech when you come back to the Navy. So this is two. Thirdly, there is a university entry scheme also. There is a direct entry through university, particularly in the engineering and electrical engineering branch. So there is a lot of scope. Yes, there will be UPSC exam. Yes, there will be service selection board. You have to be physically, mentally very fit. Those examinations are, yes, I agree, they're a little bit tough. But, you have so many opportunities in life that, it gives you a very good career and many avenues to grow, to shape yourself as a good human being. There are sports, there are adventures. You can see on the screen our paratroopers are coming down. These are all part of the, it can be done as an adventure sport as well.
We'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha, retired former Chief of Integrated Defence Staff. Thank you for talking to us about the Indian Navy on Navy Day.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Now, moving on, a 3-day Global Technology Summit is being organized in New Delhi to discuss and deliberate on ways to better use technology. Several delegates from various countries, ministers and diplomats are expected to participate in the event, and India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar delivered the keynote inaugural address.
A 3-day Global Technology Summit is being organized in New Delhi. More than 100 delegates from across several countries will discuss about various topics on technology and artificial intelligence that concerns the world. Multiple rounds of panel discussion and one-on-one interactions will pave way for better understanding of new technologies and responsible use of technology.
The interpenetrative capability of technology has actually grown, it is not just that it shapes our lives, but in a very individual sense, across all the conceptual barriers that we all have in our minds, barriers of privacy, barriers of community, barriers of nation state. Technology today has shown its ability to go through all of that.
Themes like digital public infrastructure on the globalization of this technology will be a key focus of the summit on the second day. India has taken a lead in the digital public infrastructure globally, and many developed countries have shown interest in India's digital transformation story.
Today, the effort in building and delivering on a digital public infrastructure, what Prime Minister likes to call the democratizing of technology. The technology today, the average person not only uses it but relates to it. Of course, the figure which we like to tout out is the one relating to the UPI, the massive volumes of UPI transaction.
Several senior ministers of the Government of India and government officials will also take part in the discussion over the next 2 days. They will discuss about India's digital age and adoption of technology. Not just this, foreign delegates and the US ambassador to India would also grace the event to discuss about the technological advancement and better global cooperation amongst nations.
These conversations crystallized something for me that the Biden administration recognized early on about India, which is that no partnership will be more consequential to the future than that of the United States and India.
The three-day Global Technology Summit aims to bring out a positive outcome document that would pave way for nations to better cooperate and use technology for development of the world. Dibyendu Mondal's report for DD India.
Going back to our philosophy. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met the Kenyan President William Ruto, who is on a state visit to India till the 6th of December. On social media platform X, Dr. Jaishankar appreciated the Kenyan president's perspectives on the concerns of the global south, as well as the valued insights he provided for strengthening of bilateral ties between the two countries. The global media has praised the big wins for the BJP in the state elections of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan as an expansion of the Prime Minister Modi's dominance. The media further added that these outcomes were vital ahead of the Lok Sabha elections next year.
As the Bharatiya Janata Party's saffron tsunami swept the Hindi heartland in 3 of the 4 Indian states at assembly elections on Sunday, global media commended the victory as an expansion of Prime Minister Modi's dominance. The New York Times reported that with the triumphs in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, the BJP expanded its dominance of a key region ahead of general elections. The results were another blow to the dwindling fortunes of the main opposition party, the Indian National Congress.
Two takeaways of the factors from the poll results are: one, that despite being in power for almost a decade, Prime Minister Modi remains widely popular. So his popularity hasn't faded away yet. And the second most important point is that which the media, opposition political parties and BJP, so they are all looking at the outcome of the 4 major state polls.
The Washington Post reported that Prime Minister Modi will seek re-election next year at a time when India's global diplomatic reach is rising. They also mentioned in their report that Modi and his party remain popular on a national level after nearly a decade in power, and also surveys suggest that he will win a 3rd consecutive term in the year 2024. News agency Reuters said that Modi remains widely popular after a decade in power, and surveys suggest he will win again next year.
Even global media is now recognizing that Prime Minister Modi is, historically and unprecedentedly popular in India. Democratic mandate is there, and his policies are appreciated and accepted and supported by common people.
Moving on to another US daily, Bloomberg, they reported that while the assembly polls are not a proxy for 2024's general elections, the fact that the opposition lost fairly comprehensively will buoy the ruling party and Modi ahead of the Lok Sabha elections. AFP news agency reported that the victories in the 3 states further boosted BJP and Modi, who is already the favorite to win his 3rd consecutive term in the office next year. As the political landscape evolves, Prime Minister Narendra Modi remains a formidable figure poised for a potential 3rd consecutive term, as affirmed by international media coverage.
The Election Commission of India has declared the assembly election results for the northeastern state of Mizoram, and the ruling Mizo National Front is faced a rout, and it could win only 10 seats, while the main opposition, the ZPM, bagged 27 seats in the 40-member House. Ladhu Homa, the ZPM's chief ministerial candidate, has also secured a clear victory in his constituency, the Serchhip constituency. Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The world's largest iceberg, the Antarctic Iceberg, called the A23A, sails away from Antarctica. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, scientists aboard the RSS Sir David Attenborough, they've collected samples of seawater around the A23A mega iceberg. That's the world's largest iceberg, which is sailing away from Antarctica, the continent. The Antarctica Iceberg, called A23A, is roughly 3 times the size of New York City. Recent satellite images reveal that this iceberg weighs nearly 1 trillion metric tons, and it's now drifting quickly past the northern tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, aided by strong winds and currents. Blizzards blanketed Moscow in record snowfall and disrupted flights as winter weather swept across Russia. In the Russian capital, some of the biggest snowfalls ever seen caused delays at some airports on Monday, with runways covered in thick snow. At least 54 flights were delayed and 5 more were cancelled at the capital's 3 largest airports. Temperatures in Moscow were forecast to fall to -18 degrees Celsius later this week. Meanwhile, temperatures in parts of Siberia have already plummeted to -50 degrees Celsius. In the Sakha Republic, located in the northeastern part of Siberia and home to the Yakutsk, one of the world's coldest cities, temperatures fell to below -50 degrees Celsius, according to the region's weather stations. Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC, in collaboration with Google Cloud, Antler, Paytm, Protean, and Startup India, has unveiled Build for Bharat. Over 200,000 participants are set to revolutionize digital commerce through challenges across 50+ cities. Siddharth Bharadwaj reports.
Use cases, we heard the expectation.
Digital commerce is pivotal. It offers businesses a global reach, enhanced customer experiences, and streamlined transactions. There are certain challenges that comes its way, which are needed to be tackled. The Open Network for Digital Commerce, in collaboration with Google Cloud India, Antler in India, Paytm, Protean, and Startup India, has announced Build for Bharat initiative that aims to tackle diverse challenges in digital commerce. Aman Gupta, co-founder and CMO at Boat Lifestyle, was present at the event. During an exclusive conversation with DD India, he shared valuable insights when asked about advice for aspiring entrepreneurs.
I think it's a good time to start here. It's never been a better time to start than now. Abhi dekho, there is so much happening around startups. If you see, never in the world was a startup day celebrated, which Modi ji has started. Now startup day is being celebrated. I think now people are proud to start up. And India being India, I think now is the time then that people can pursue their dreams and build the next Googles or the Microsofts or the Apples from India.
Tiko Shi, MD and CEO at ONDC, also emphasized on growing digital commerce system in India and also spoke about how the startups are contributing to India's economy.
The beauty is this collective effort that is coming from this large community will act as a stimulant to not just the big cities, but even the small villages, because they suddenly realize there is a product they can make for their part of the world, which will still find its relevance in this large network.
Vijay Shekhar Sharma, founder and CEO Paytm, also praised the evolving digital landscape in the country.
There is an organic demand now. When a shopkeeper opens, there is a requirement of digital payment system. And I fundamentally believe that soon it'll be that I have a requirement of going on ONDC. And I think that should be the India stack in complete sense, or DPI's full vision. When a retailer or a manufacturer starts to sell to consumers, they think of it that I have to obviously have a digital payment and obviously go on ONDC.
In the future, digital commerce promises a world where convenience meets innovation, transforming how we buy and sell online. The expanding digital spectrum in the country is a clear sign that the future holds immense potential.
With camera person Pramod Kumar, this is Siddharth Bharadwaj for DD India in New Delhi.
The third edition of the Global Bio India was inaugurated by India's Minister of State for Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh, at the Bharat Mandapam in the national capital, New Delhi, on Monday. With the theme Biotech Innovation and Biomanufacturing, the event aims to showcase India's prowess in the biotechnology sector as a crucial driver towards achieving the ambitious $5 trillion Indian economy target. The conference is poised to be the largest international congregation of biotechnology stakeholders, including representatives from over 30 countries, 500 plus exhibitors as well, 3,000 plus delegates and 1,000 plus startups. The Union Minister also launched significant reports, including the India Bioeconomy Report and the Driven Network monograph. Viksit Bharat Sankalp Yatra continues also in India's Assam, like other parts of the country. In events held in Guwahati, Bishwanath, short films played on the welfare schemes of the government, the beneficiaries of various schemes like PM Ujjwala Yojana, PM Awas Yojana, PM Swanidhi, etc. They attended the event and shared their experiences, the happiness at receiving these benefits through welfare schemes of the union government. The Agriculture Department in Bishwanath also demonstrated the use of drones to spray nano urea in paddy fields. In an exclusive conversation with DD India's Munmun Bhattacharya, the head of India's higher education regulator, Professor Jagdish Kumar, shared details of the Government of India's decision to allow foreign higher education institutions to set up and run campuses in India. Let's listen.
How will you ensure that only the best universities come to India?
One, the eligibility criteria is clearly specified in our regulations. For example, they should be within the top 500 ranks in the global rankings, although we have not specified any global ranking agency, but in general, or subject-wise, they should be within the 500 global rankings. Also, there are some institutions which do not participate in the ranking, but they are highly reputed in terms of their research contributions, in terms of their alumni success and the reputation that the university has. So all these parameters will be considered by the standing committee, and they will also see whether the educational programs that the foreign universities will offer will enhance the educational opportunities for our own students. Considering all these factors, the standing committee will make its recommendations.
Well, that interview airs at 8 p.m. IST on the 5th of December, 2:30 p.m. GMT. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram as well. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour. And we're going to leave you with images of the program that was held earlier today, Navy Day. Namaskar.